What are some of the most common issues that you come up against in family law cases?
That's an interesting question. I mean, the law has changed, and we now have the Family Law Act. The difficulty with the Family Law Act, and as it relates to property division, is we now have what's called an excluded property regime. So what that means is you need to go back to when you first started living with someone, and you have to determine what were my assets and liabilities at that time. And so everyone going through this process who comes into my office, it's always sort of the same set of questions. Okay, you started living together 10 years ago. What did you have? And so you may say, well, I had a condo on Quebec Street in Vancouver, and there was equity in that of $200,000. And I say to you, okay, well, you sold that property 5 years ago. What did you do with that money? And you say, oh, I bought another property with my $300,000 because it increased in value, and I put it into this next property. So excluded property means, what did you have at the beginning? Can you trace that through to the date that you do your deal or there's a trial? And so that's one piece. And I know there's a piece around inherited assets as well. So if you receive gifts or an inheritance from a family member, then that's also what's called excluded property. And it's only the excluded property, and then it's the increase in value that's divisible with your partner on separation and divorce. Now, that may sound all well and good and simple, but family law, we live in a world of gray. And that concept of excluded property can be lost. And it really turns on the facts of each case. But let's say, for example, you had excluded property, you put it in a house, it was in your sole name. You take that house, you sell it, you then buy a new property and you put it in your husband's sole name because he's an entrepreneur and you're worried about creditors. Well, have you lost your exclusion as a result of that? So nothing is black and white, and that's why for most people, I would recommend having a cohabitation agreement or marriage agreement at the very beginning of your relationship. At the very least, gather up your statements, your bank statements, your investment statements, and make sure you just tuck them away in a file folder so you know 15 years later, in the unlikelihood of divorce, which these days is not actually that unlikely. We all know what the divorce rate is, and it's not low. At least you have that information there. So you can say, actually, 15 years ago when we started living together, this is what I had. And you can protect, hopefully, the assets that you brought into the relationship or any gifts or inheritance that you received.